Today we have a kind of a meeting without any presentations, so we can have some discussion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we need 6 people for quorum. Thea, is that right?
Yeah.
Thea's going to be our new member.
Oh, great.
She's not official yet. I'll let her introduce herself after this. I think the city's going to approve her in the next council meeting.
Yes, next Monday.
Next Monday. So welcome aboard. Maybe Thea, you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, I'm Thea Rodriguez. I'm a health promotion specialist at the Pueblo Department of Public Health and Environment. And the program I work in is called Achieving Community Change Together. And I work with the west side of Pueblo, not Pueblo West, in Colorado City. And I work with 3 different coalitions. 2 are in Colorado City, 1 is in the west side, and they're all working to improve their neighborhoods and reduce health disparities. So they put on events like cleanups, community block parties, health fairs, that sort of thing. And I have a lot of experience with policy work, strategic planning, community engagement, everything like that. And so I think I could bring a lot to the table.
Great, cool. Welcome.
Yeah, good to have you. So should we introduce ourselves? I haven't formally met.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's go. Sure. Edgy, we'll start with you, and then we'll go around.
Oh, we're just going to introduce you.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Edgy Walrath. I've been on the commission with, it's been almost 2.5 years. You kind of lose track.
2 years.
And I'm a former Excel Energy employee, retired from Excel. And I guess that's about it for now.
Steve Naraki, I work at a local nonprofit SRDA.
So Tom Corlett, we've sort of met. I'm fairly new on the commission as well, but I've been attending the meetings. I was on a prior energy commission in Pueblo when we attempted to municipalize. It was called 2A. So we didn't, obviously. I'm a retired lead AP. I've worked on buildings to make them more efficient, like the building you're in at the health department. I worked for, I've done that for a few years, but prior to that, I was actually working at the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation in Arizona and in Madison, Wisconsin, doing pretty much the same thing you're doing now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good. So that's about the extent of, I mean, I outside of being in the ski industry for 40 years before that, but we don't need to get into that.
Yeah, I'm Ken Dante. I'm a retired engineer, and my background is semiconductor design, so chip design. When I came to Pueblo, I put renewable energy on my house, and that kind of got me interested into the energy field because you kind of have to protect yourself from what the utility want, which may not be aligned with that interest. Anyway, so for some reason, I'm chair of this.
We all stepped back.
You got the most votes. I'm Alan Ward. My day job is I work for the Board of Waterworks. I'm the Water Resources Division Manager. So I manage the water storage and everything for that utility. And kind of similar to Ken, I put solar panels on my house a while back and started getting really interested in energy policy and that sort of thing. And of course, you know, it's also related to utility, which I work for, although it's not like a utility. And so just sounded like something to be interesting to do. And I'm right at about a year on the commission.
Why don't you go ahead, George?
I'm George. I work for the city of Pueblo and as energy efficiency coordinator. So between facilitating these meetings and working on different energy efficiency grants, that is my responsibility. And between different grants, meeting with other community members, stakeholders, facilitating. That's a bit about what I do in my position.
And then,
yeah, Laura, if you'd just like to introduce yourself for a quick introduction.
Sure. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Laura Getz. I started out in Pueblo as the energy coordinator for Pueblo County. And then I moved to work for San Isabel Electric Association. And I'm now at Tri-State Generation and Transmission. So very much in the energy industry, and have, I've had a couple different perspectives, including the community engagement side of things, which is so important. And so it's been helpful to live and breathe energy most of my week, in terms of having some perspective on the commission. But it's great to see new members. So thank you for being willing to join.
And there are a couple members, maybe Tyler Surratt, who owns Steel City Solar, is one of the co-owners of that. A big installer for solar. And then John Vigil, who works for Black Hills, is another member. So normally we'd go into the consent agenda. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can do that. Okay. So in the consent agenda, what we do is we approve the last meeting's minutes, and they're on the distribution packet. If I can have a motion to approve.
So move.
Second, okay. Everybody who approves say yes.
Yes.
Anybody disapprove, say no. Okay, minutes are approved. So that's kind of the consent agenda part. Now we can go into committee reports. So I think there are 2 committees. One is called the Policy Committee. One is kind of energy efficiency. I don't know what do you call yourself?
Don't ask, blame Alan for this. We picked a long name, but what we're energy efficiency, and we included the city solar, and we want to include probably the charging stations now for the EVs, since they're looking at remote. Police chief, as you remember, was concerned about having, if there's no electricity in the city, how do you get a police car charged up? So, I think we want to take on that. We kind of talked a little bit about that during the meeting, and batteries, of course, is becoming more and more affordable and another option. And these contracts, we did meet. Well, I might as well go with our report. Is that okay? We did meet with Black Hills with John and Damien. I want to call him Damien. What was his name? The one that started with the D. Devin.
Yes.
It works with the contracts, and I'll tell you, I was really disappointed. Working for a company like that. And I'll leave it up to you to see what you think. When we were talking to him about the contracts and things, one thing that Devin said, he said, "Well, don't worry about those contracts. If you can change them." If
You're talking about a contract with a local, subscribing to
for the solar gardens.
solar gardens. Okay.
I apologize. And he says, "Don't worry about those. Those contracts, if they don't work out, we'll change them." And I can't even believe they said it. The other thing he said is, we were talking about outages and brownouts, and he says we won't have any more brownouts. And I don't, a few in the industry. So I was a little disappointed, and I really think that on these contracts for the solar garden, that we do them a year at a time with the options to renew, because as you know, the price is going down drastically and more of these come up. Having a 20-year one, we could have got out of those because they weren't meeting their 8%. On those. So I don't know where they stand now. And I think it's really important that they want to meet with city council without us being involved. They don't want to come through here. And
Are we talking about franchise agreements, or what are we talking about?
the solar garden agreements, the 20-year.
So let me just kind of
Sure.
Put back what you're saying, right? So if you subscribe to one of these solar gardens, right, you can become renewable, and you become a renewable net metering customer. it saves you 8% or something like that.
That's what the deal the
Okay.
city got on, I think they got two different contracts, if I remember, on a few, half a dozen buildings.
Where if you actually own the solar behind the meter, it's probably more like about 80-90%.
Yeah. And I think we talked about bond, the city pole bond or so a lot of, there's a lot of funding from the government, both feds and state for municipally owned.
I think this is just an opinion.
Sure.
Okay? Or maybe I should say I believe, I should start it out with, that Black Hills slows things down because they have people that will come interact with the city, full-time employees like John Beal, and the Devin Mueller and all, who are all nice people. Okay, they're working for their company, who can go influence the mayor, the city councilors, much more effectively than we can being a commission. Okay, I think it's my belief that the city ought to own this infrastructure. In other words, own the solar farms, own the batteries, and make the city very resilient. Okay. You talked a little earlier about the police department who are bringing in EVs, and then they're concerned about charging it. Right? They got the EVs a little ahead of the chargers, but I think that's all being caught up, right? Because they've got some level 3 chargers. Andrew Hayes and George have worked on some ideas that would give them more charging capability. It's probably not quite there. I'm an EV owner, and there's a charger just right over here, but it's dead. Okay.
It's not working right now.
It's not working. Yeah. And I came in and I asked the folks here, I said, you just be aware it's not working. And they said, no problem, we'll get it up tomorrow. I said, that doesn't do me a lot of good. I went over to Black Hills, which is a couple blocks away.
Well, they still have them over across from the convention center in that parking.
Well, those
up and running.
Those are Tesla chargers. The Tesla network is really fine. Okay, everything works. Those are level 3 chargers. So
But it doesn't work for your vehicle.
it would work fine for my vehicle.
Yeah. How many is over there?
Do you have to pay for that? These are free.
Okay.
So it's free. I shouldn't complain. Okay.
And how many's over there at the convention center?
Quite about 8
At least 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
And those are superchargers.
on the north side.
Those will charge your car in 15 minutes. Okay, from 20% to 100%.
And what I'll do is I'll finish up, and then if you have some more comments, but Alan may want to add something to it, but I think our committees, since Andrew's done such a great job with he took it on himself, through our committee, saying, hey, there's Black Hills has rebates on anything you do to the buildings, and he took it upon himself to get with Black Hills or his staff, and it's working real good. That was something we were working on, but Alan's doing such a great job. And then that contract for the energy management on it. And
when you say Alan, are you talking about Alan?
Andrew, I'm sorry, Andrew.
Okay.
Andrew also got is working on that contract from with the state for the energy management. And I forget what that's called.
Colorado Energy Office or something like that. I mean, there's so much opportunity for money, right? With the Inflation Reduction Act and state and Department of Energy money, which is why one of our early recommendations was to get a coordinator for this group, and that's why they hired George. Okay, so
let me just finish, and then we'll go on. So I think our group focus is probably going to turn more to looking at getting energy versus doing the energy management and upgrades of materials. Seems like Andrew's got a good job on that. And is there anything else, Andrew? Alan. Oh, geez, Alan.
Mr. Andrew.
Sorry, I've had a tough day.
No, nothing to add.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I thought I'd be
I know,
finished. And
thank
then
you.
if you had any comments, we could
Yeah,
go, because otherwise, as you could tell, I'm having a hard time, getting the words out myself. So
hey, this name aphasia, I mean, it's just a old man thing.
Oh, I didn't know you were old.
thanks.
You don't look old.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it a lot too. I mean, I call my daughter by my grandchildren's name, and even my wife, I call her by my sister's name sometimes.
Well, it's not an old thing. It's everyone does this.
Yeah, and it started happening more in the 50s than
So that should be my report talking about aging,
Yeah.
not.
Gracefully.
Report, yeah.
okay. The next committee is the policy committee.
Yeah, so at our last get together, we talked about, and I think Laura shared this with the entire group, but the Communities Leap opportunity. It's a technical assistance type grant to help. We can pick a couple of focus areas and then we get technical assistance to build programs around those focus areas. I think the executive, no, we're not the executive policy committee, thought it was a good idea. The deadline though is December 14th, so we'll have to act quickly if we're gonna move on that one. We talked about the recent announcement that Pueblo County has LEED certification for communities. It was a long process. I think Laura said it's maybe started when she was still at the county many years ago, and they finally got gold certification. So pretty good certification. I don't know a ton about it, so if you have questions about what that means and what they have to do going forward, ask Tom. But
I think it's a pretty big deal, right?
Yeah,
and the county's not celebrating this very much. I mean, they're kind of keeping it within their organization.
they did have Danae made an announcement, like a social media brief video talking about it. So they're trying to get the word out, to some extent on that. We talked about collaboration between the commission and the coordinator, how we tie in with you a little better. We also talked about setting a strategic plan for the commission, and we're talking about somewhere we actually bring in an outside facilitator to kind of help us get all our ideas, down on paper and start to come up with ideas of how we actually move forward. And I think we all agreed that would be a good idea. We probably need that help, learning to work together better as a team and maybe be a little more productive. And then I think, was it Sarah Martinez thought that there may be some money or assistance available to the commission to go through that process with the facilitator. And then we did a review of today's agenda.
Sure. So tomorrow I will be at the mayor's office for a meeting, and I'll follow up with them about the strategic planning process more specifically.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple things, right? Sarah Martinez, who's a city councilor, wants to go forward with this. We gave a work session presentation about a month ago, and there were some asks. One was for let's go forward with performance improvement contracts or energy performance contracting (EPCs). Let's think about creating an office of sustainability. We didn't call it that, but there's so much money that we could get from federal government, from the state, from nonprofits that we need help. They may be hiring another grant writer. Is that true, or do you know?
They will have another grant analyst come on board.
So that might help, but this the bottom line, and you really can't say this because half the people don't believe it. The reason we're doing this is because of climate change, right? We need to get rid of fossil fuels and electrify everything, which means that we need to make our buildings ready for that. So that people that have a hard time affording energy today, maybe it's going to be cheaper for them in the future because we'll fix their buildings in the process, or they'll fix their buildings. And everybody needs to do this: businesses, residential, everybody, industry. So we asked for that, and Sarah, she's the president of the work session, so she wanted to follow through on this. And the topic came up. I think Tom had a conversation with her about, let's do a strategic plan. Or are you missing a strategic plan? So she talked with Laura Solano, and we just need to make sure that it happens, okay? Because I think that'll be a good way for us to gel, and for us to be heard, right? So so we have a strategy of how we're going to execute these things within the city.
Would also help with grant writing. I think we need to be more cohesive and be outward looking and have some things that we're measuring as we're moving along. So we really haven't had that yet. And so I think it's a perfect thing to do at the moment. And we'll attract more members like you, and that's going to be helpful for everybody.
So you mentioned strategic planning in your introduction.
Yes, so
Any thoughts about that?
one of my grant deliverables is to help the coalitions I work with create action plans, which is strategic planning, and I wish I brought them. I will email them to you guys. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, since we have someone that has the background in that,
Thank you, George.
I think if you would want to do that, is to actually hold and facilitate and help us with our strategic planning rather than hire someone.
Let's hire somebody.
Yeah, that would be fine.
What was wrong with my suggestion? You got a professional that's sitting on the board to be kind of like me saying, let's get somebody to help us with the.
But I don't want to bog her down in the. I want her to be a participant in this. Okay, I think there's already. So this has been talked about a little bit already. Okay, I think they have they have staff already that could help us with this. Okay,
Who does?
Laura Solano does.
Oh, so she's got they have someone on staff that's going to help us with this.
I don't know if they're staff or if they're a consultant, but
It's a third party, I believe.
Okay.
So tomorrow I'll find more information about
Okay.
where we are.
I don't want to get
When you said hire someone, it sounds like that's not happening. It's going to be either a city employee that will help us with that. Is that correct?
I think it's funded. Okay, whatever it's not a gigantic piece of money.
George is going to meet in the mayor's office, so you can find out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Confirm that so we all know.
The point is, I don't want to bog Thea down with this because she's kind of new. I'd rather have her be a participant of it.
But it's hard to both facilitate and
Yeah.
participate at the same time.
Absolutely.
It's better to have a neutral third party do your facilitation.
I mean, it's great that you have these skills, okay,
Oh, yeah.
and keep us on track, okay, because I'm one to go off on all kinds of tangents, okay. So if you feel like that's happening, just say, Ken, let's get it back onto the agenda. It won't hurt my feelings, okay. So I think this is going to be a great thing for us, okay.
And that's my background as well. So I'd like to work with you in terms of this group, and we'll work with whomever
Yes.
we deal with, but we don't want to take our time away from somebody trying to stand up here and lead everybody's conversation. So I think it's a good approach.
Yeah, it's going to take more than just once a month meetings to do this too. So we'll see what that schedule looks like. So we'll probably want to go off for a long, maybe I don't know. We'll see what the facilitator comes up with. But it's more than just a hour and a half meeting. If you didn't notice, I've extended the time from 4 to 5:30 for this meeting.
I won't be able to do that on a regular basis because I still have to go back to my shop.
Okay, well, yeah, that's fine too. Thank you for being here.
We could start at 3:30. I could do that.
Yeah, I mean, is there something we could do to accommodate your schedule better?
That's,
I mean, if everybody else can do 3:30 to 5.
It's part of the strategic plan, I would say,
Okay,
instead of us deciding,
well, I mean, I'm looking at Alan and Thea, because they're the ones with the jobs, right? I mean, I'm.
I got a job, by the way.
I got a job.
And Laura too.
Laura's got a job.
And Laura, yeah.
8 to 5 or
We all have business. But yeah, so, I don't know if you want to, we talked about that when you that was one of the first things we talked about, if there was that I asked you,
Okay.
if there's a better day or times. I think an hour and 15 minutes, I think is appropriate, with the option of having a special
like a reach
session. And, I don't know if I understand you're calling it a retreat.
So let's, so strategic planning is going to be different, right? It's going to be a different set of meetings from the standard commission meeting. Let's figure out the frequency of the commission meeting in that strategic plan.
We don't have to. I was just, I'm just trying to get move on rather than
Okay.
spend a lot of time talking
So I
about.
have an expert here. So typically, how long does it take? Well, how many days, how many hours would you put into for a group what we're doing for a strategic planning?
My meetings usually last an hour and 30 minutes, so.
But I mean, putting a plan together from scratch.
I would say an hour and 30 minutes once a month. This didn't take very much. As you could see, there's only 3 objectives. And then we have the activities to fulfill those objectives. And then we have the people responsible, timeline, resources, and expected outcomes. So as long as we already kind of have an idea going into it, it's just writing our ideas down and narrowing them down so that it's very simple and very achievable.
Okay. We did, when this commission was formed, we're going on it'll be 3 years, right? We did have a planning, a series of planning sessions, maybe a couple. Laura helped facilitate that.
Right.
Laura
And we did our brainstorming session and came up with some objectives. And I imagine,
I think it's the best way.
this is again just my feeling on it, that those things will come back because they're important. It's like energy efficiency, building out renewable infrastructure, things like that, right? But we can break them down into goals and things like that, right? So I mean, I think it'll be a good exercise. It'll make us a better team. Okay. Because we do have new people, right?
So let me just be clear here. Are we talking about a separate session to do the strategic plan? And your estimation is only going to take an hour and a half to do it.
I would say so, if there's already ideas in place.
Yeah.
It'll take longer with this group.
Are you against this session, or do you?
No, as a matter of fact, as long as it's done by 5.
Okay, fine. So we need to understand that. Maybe George, you can kind of poll everybody and see if there's a better time for us too. You can do that in a.
Well, whatever time you, as you know, from being, facilitating, being strategic planning, you make a time limit and you make sure that happens. And then if not, you create another meeting. But from being, I don't necessarily agree. A subject matter expert and a strategic planning person can't, be the same person. It's on there, but it sounds like, I know you went, maybe that's all sold up. And I hope you agree, Tom, you can participate. Actually, it's easier as a facilitator because you can just, put your words up there. but I just, it sounds like, to me, like you wanna maybe a retreat or something, a lot bigger than what what we've done in the past to get
Well,
going.
I mean, what I'm hearing is that we probably don't need to do that, that we, we. Let's let the facilitator help us with that. Maybe, maybe it's an hour and a half session. If we need to do more, then we do another hour and a
Yeah,
half.
no, that'd be great. Yeah.
That's what usually do.
Yeah.
And,
But I kind of I want that kind of separate from our commission
Oh,
meeting.
yeah, no, that could be a separate, I'd be willing to come to a separate meeting,
Yeah.
or a couple of separate meetings to do that.
and give us a chance to try a different day or something, because you can poll on that and see. No, I think it's the strategic planning goals and objectives, I think, is really good to look at again. Because the industry, almost every 6 months, everything we talked about 6 months ago, it's changing.
Yeah.
And moving faster, more money, different money, and the ability to serve, all different economic lines of the community and things like that.
There are strategic plans and there are strategic plans, or it's a matter of how deep you want to go with it. Because I've never really done one that was more than a day. And I've did one for Ryoka, for any number of other outfits. And I respect what you've done. I haven't seen it, but I'd be interested in Laura's view as well. But I think if this is really going to be a serious energy commission, we have a lot to do. And that it's not only just sort of understanding, buildings and solar and that sort of thing. We have 2 franchises with XL and with Black Hills. We haven't even talked about how we might deal with that. We have opportunities with Lead for Cities and Communities, I think, to start to help heal a little bit the 2 entities. I've got 2 pages already of information that I think should be shared, and just in terms of really deeply thinking about where we want to be. Is it a 1-year plan, 2, 3? How far do we want to go? How do we want to measure these things? Are we doing well? Do you want to stop? Do you want to do something different? I mean, it ought to be something that's flexible and that it doesn't just get on a shelf. And that's the old saying is, let's don't do this and put it on the shelf. We already have now a community, a new comprehensive plan. If everyone here should start there, because that lays out quite a few goals that the county has put out, and the city has more or less agreed. Although I haven't really talked to anybody that's seen it. So it's a piece of work, and it's got I think it's probably 400 pages or something like that. I focus on page 71, which has everything to do with an energy plan, which isn't in it yet. Laura and I and Ken, some others have worked on an energy plan that they have now, that the county has sort of reached out and pulled into the Lead for Communities. So we have the county doing things and the city doing things, and we need to try to pull those things together a little bit if we can. Steve, you can talk a little about what I see as a sort of disconnected city and county.
Yeah, no, and then the energy, remember when, who was it that tried to facilitate the meeting with the county for their energy group?
Francis Consilia.
It was,
it was Excel.
No, but it was a young woman that tried to, it was like a Zoom meeting and stuff
Oh,
like that.
I wasn't there.
What the heck's her name? She's my neighbor. She worked for AIM. And
Alexis?
Lexi.
Alexis.
Yeah, and it was like everybody was yelling back and forth at each other. I was on that call. And but the reality is that, I mean, we work at the pleasure of the elected officials. And I think we are a serious committee, but we do need some direction. That's why we got somebody to be the liaison. So some of us didn't have to do that. And so we're really looking towards you, but we also need to kind of know what their expectations are. We gave a work session presentation. I don't know if the council work chair, Martinez, if she's the one that recommended you since she works at the health department or what. But the fact is that we have somebody that's young and somebody that's bright, that's what we want to do, is have new people become a part of this. But I think this is a serious group. We got people that have, I mean, look around the table, the backgrounds that you guys have. I don't have any of that kind of, I know how to unplug something and plug something in.
But you've been a councilor president, you know how the city works, right? So.
Well, yeah, and I can help, and Danae is going to be a great asset. And I don't want to get into the politics of the other two commissioners, but you got to want to do something before anything gets done. And so I do believe that Danae is an asset to that group.
Absolutely. Yeah, and
She could help us bring the two together. I really do believe. And that she did work for the city, remember, before she left the city. And the sustainability, that's what she was in charge of. And so I think she would be a key ally of ours in terms of trying to get those two, our city and our county, together.
And the county staff is relatively new.
Yeah.
And both highly skilled. And I give them a lot of credit for continuing to get the lead for city and communities done. Because it's been laying there since, Laura, it's, I think 2018, 2017, Laura. And they've picked it up and sort of breathed life back into it, and it's now been approved. I think, we will see some kind of a presentation to the community by the county at some point in time.
Well, in an ideal world too, we would have one energy commission for both the city and the county.
Yeah.
And so we're not duplicating effort. And that would be my goal, if we could work towards that.
Yep.
And
Okay.
I'm not sure what that meant about anything, but I'm right with you in terms of some of the things that we need to accomplish, but I took and hopefully you were just being a little facetious. This is a serious group. When we put this group together, I felt we had a real commitment. We got people like, who's that up there, Laura? I mean, we have that kind of commitment. We got you now as a part of it. Look at all the meetings you just sat in just because you wanted to help support it. Now you're a part of it. But we do need to still have good connection with the elected officials.
Yeah, I think we're forming an excellent team of people. Okay. I'm surprised at the level that everybody's at. I mean, there's a lot of experience here.
I didn't mean to get sidetracked.
But
So
more so the willingness to do this.
Yeah.
Right.
So let me see where we are with the chief of staff tomorrow and the strategic planning. I can provide updates to everyone,
Okay.
where we are with that, and then we'll see what the next steps are. But let's go ahead and jump back into the agenda here.
Yeah. Thank you.
Really what has been going on now is the approval of the bylaws that are ready to be voted on. So if you'd like, we can just go through the pages real quick. So
Well, let's not do that, okay? Because these bylaws have been sitting out there for everybody to look at for weeks. And I do, but Alan has spent some time going through this, and I appreciate that. Are we ready to go ahead and?
I think so, just to get it, and we can always change things.
Yep. So if I have a motion to approve the bylaw,
So moved.
a second?
Second.
Everybody that approves say yes.
Yes.
Anybody that disapproves say no. Bylaws are approved. So that saves us a little time, okay?
And you were able to get your questions solved.
Well, she's solving it. We will have 10 members once she's confirmed.
Yeah, but I meant, you didn't want to change the word. Didn't see it necessary.
Well, I don't know that we can because the wording was taken straight out of the ordinance.
So
I was just pointing out that
Yeah.
that we were adopting bylaws that say we have to be at least 10 and we're currently not.
Well, yeah, well, as long as it happens naturally and we're not doing it purposely, to avoid getting that extra person and stuff. As long as we're not negligent.
But there is a process, and in the future, if we wanted to change the bylaws, that can be done. But you're right, they're directly tied to an ordinance that was approved.
I would say if anybody has any issues with the bylaws, let's bring them up at when you have the issue and let's fix them. Okay? It's up to this group to do that.
Yeah. one of the bylaws is about how you amend the bylaws.
So do we have a city attorney that's assigned to this group?
Not this group, but there is a city attorney that we could ask for counsel if
I
needed.
mean, for the boards and commissions, I mean, obviously the liquor board has an attorney that's part of that. But I just wondered if we needed that.
Does the city still have an energy attorney separate from the city attorney?
Yes, for the PUC.
Like Mark Davidson, I think.
Yes, I believe so. And that's another topic that I'll bring up tomorrow is
Great. Perfect.
to
Kind of advocate with the PUC.
Yeah, I think what we need, well, we can.
I don't know
talk
that we voted yet. Did we vote?
For the bylaws?
Yeah.
Yes.
We did the vote too? I thought we just did the vote.
You young
Okay.
people in your memories.
I got it right. We could vote again.
Hey, what dates, Alan? I was feeling old.
What do the minutes say?
Let's vote on them again.
Yeah, I got
As
it.
long as the minutes say.
All right, good.
That's all. I didn't remember, I remembered motions, but I didn't.
Hey, we got a lot of stuff going on.
It's nice to see everybody being human tonight.
Yeah, it's,
I'll be in there with you.
yeah.
Okay, so bylaws are approved. Anything else you want to cover in that?
Well, the next item on the agenda is a letter of support request from Andrew. And the city will be applying for the geothermal energy grant program for the Colorado Energy Office. And so at the request of Andrew, he's wanting the endorsement from the Energy Advisory Commission to
This is a draft letter.
yes, so the draft letter, and I do have the grant program pulled up here. So the city is going to apply for 3 different grant applications for the 3 new fire stations that are coming up. And so to garner support for this, the geothermal grant will provide money for heat pumps for the fire stations. And I do need to review the applications that the grant writer Luann is writing. And so they will be the single structural geothermal. That is the program type. And so basically it's asking for, or it will provide money for the heat pumps that are going to be installed.
I sent out an email on this just real recently, right before the
Yes.
meeting. And I put one paragraph in on this. I think the original proposal was talking about all kinds of different geothermal things. And this is just basically a ground loop heat source, which is extremely efficient, by the way, if you're not familiar with this. This is what a lot of the new net zero buildings do, is everything is electric in a net zero building. These new fire stations are going to be net zero buildings, which is because of this commission, by the way. So the best way to heat and cool these buildings is with a ground source geothermal loop system, right? Just basically you're using the heat of the earth as your heat source, and then you have a heat pump attached. So now we can go get some money because George can help write the grants. So, let's go do it. I don't, unless anybody has an objection to it.
I don't.
No, if you want a formal action to support it.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
I would move that we send a letter of support for the grant application.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Everybody that approves, say yes, yes.
Just a question. So the letter, how it's intact at this time is what we're approving.
No,
I think it's gonna be edited.
correct.
Okay, with editing.
Yeah, because it was talking about all kinds of different geothermal, right? Geothermal energy from the earth, electric generation for geothermal. And that's not what we're gonna do.
I just wanted to make sure if the letter was ready.
So the letter will be focused to the particular application we're making. The
So,
fire stations.
So, I think I did this in a couple minutes. I put out 3 sentences on it, okay? that maybe can be embellished a little bit. I'm not a big, I don't like a lot of adjectives in there, like it's wonderful, it's beautiful, because that's just waste.
Write it like an engineer,
Write
right?
it like,
Yeah, exactly.
write it concise, right? Write it technically.
No emotion.
Anyway,
Kidding.
Yeah, and I think this is something we could discuss more offline.
yes, but you have full support from the commission.
That's great.
Right? Okay, let's do it. Let's do the vote.
And I'll just throw out there, if anyone wants another example of a successful geothermal project in Pueblo, my husband works for the National Weather Service. They have a small building out by the airport, even though it's small. They ended up retrofitting the building with a whole geothermal system because the federal government decided it was well worth the
we need
investment.
stories like that.
How many square foot is it, Laura?
Oof.
Approximately.
It's probably like 5,000. It's small, but it does operate 24/7.
Yeah,
So
we have-
that's
there's
part
also
of where the
a
payback
latent-
comes from.
Yeah, if you could, would you, could you pass on the depths, whether they went well or they went horizontal or vertical, and just the length? Would that be something you could just send us an email on?
I can try. I've asked my husband
So how big
to
are the
find that
fires?
info before, and I'll
If
do my
you
best.
can.
More than
I'm real interested. Thank you.
if they're
That's-
neighborhood fire station.
Right, that's not something I know right now, but I can look at more in the.
I'm just curious, I mean, 5,000 still is a pretty good size.
What was your question?
Well, what are the fire stations that they're doing? What square footage are they?
Yeah, because they shouldn't include the bays. Well, they have to for the geothermal.
So the architects have
They're-
kind of considered all this, right?
I don't know.
I mean, if this stuff can be scaled, right? The health center that was built on the east side is a net zero building. They're using, ground loop heat source high back systems. It's a big building.
It is a
It's
big
not,
building.
it's not operational 24/7, 7 days a week.
Which building are you talking? You're talking about the one
It's on
on
East
South-
7th.
East Eighth.
It is-
East Eighth.
East Eighth and
Yeah.
Road.
But behind Patrick Lucero Library.
I guess
The
I'm not.
Pueblo Community Health Center.
We should all take a tour of the building. Anyway.
Yeah, that would be a good thing to
I can
do.
arrange that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, something that's up and.
Yeah, Donald's the director.
If you can arrange that, let's do that, because I think that's important, and I'm sure they'd be happy to do it, right? Because
They were fundraising, so
Yeah,
be careful.
Donald Moore.
this is
They're fundraising, so that's even better.
the way we need to do future buildings. I mean, everything should be this way.
Yeah, and that geothermal engineering, the depth and the loops, I've been looking into that quite a bit, and it's soil has to do with water. If you can bring it down into the water table, in the water, you disperse that heat or cool.
55 degrees, right?
Yeah,
What there is a ground loop system that I worked on that's and in fact, it's the Paws Animal Shelter, which is a LEED Platinum building. Because they've agreed that when they get the funding, they will continue to expand the project. And that I can give you the exact engineering details on that if you'd like to see them. But it's sitting there waiting to be finished. They're about $200,000 short. So if we, as a community, can help them as a nonprofit there's no opportunity ever to have gas there. And so they're operating on propane at the moment. So
Yeah.
it's really interesting, and let on YouTube, look up geothermal, heat pumps with geothermal on YouTube. There's quite a few ones that are doing it now, and they can use a bore like they bore in utilities, like bore in water and bore in gas, and it's kind of interesting. They'll put one larger bore in, and then when they'll grab two pipes that are hooked together. So you got two, every bore you can get two in, or you go down about 100 feet with the well, and that's kind of interesting too. But anyway, if you're interested in it, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot of different things with that, and the YouTube videos are real helpful.
So the pause thing, excuse me, so you say they're about $200,000 short to finish that? So have you been involved with that down there?
well, I don't know that, but yeah, I'm still involved.
So does Billy Adams have his greenhouse still up in that down there in that area there?
No.
You know, their family was a big supporter of animals.
That's exactly.
And I wonder if they've been also supporters of that project.
Was the 200,000, is that, that's not just for their energy source, is it?
The wells are done. We're waiting to put in the exchange systems.
How big of a building is it?
The current building is around 3,700 square feet that's usable. Then there's another section of it. It's a big project.
So it's like a big house. It's not like 10,000 square
Oh,
feet.
no, you can see that from the highway.
Yeah, and I've seen it. I just want to make sure because the ones I've been looking at now, see, things have really changed in the last couple of years. It should cost in between $8 and about $20,000 to create those loops and also buy your heat pump. If you go with the heat pump boilers with the heat exchangers on them, they're really dropping in price. And
So I didn't mean to get a sidetrack.
Yeah, I thought that.
Billy Adams, but if they need money,
yeah,
the family has got a lot of money that like animals.
So did we vote on this heat pump support?
yes, we
Yeah, that's enough.
I got a billion in the minute.
You sure you could get out of this,
Is there anything else you want to share then, or?
Well, just wanted to provide a couple updates from the city and the grants that I've been working on, a couple other updates. For EV specifically, the EV readiness plan, we've been taking questions from different vendors and it will be opening Thursday. So there's been a lot of enthusiasm for working on that. And then also the city has been invited to fully apply for what's called the community access to e-bike program, which will help the transportation needs of city employees who do not have motor vehicles. So we're looking to apply for e-bikes for HR. And then in addition, we have funds coming in for this Fleet Zero grant as well as EV chargers as well. I submitted the public building electrification grant with the Municipal Justice Center in mind. How we discussed there was a very limited energy resiliency last meeting that Chief Noller shared with us. So that grant is to fund a solar array and battery backup. And then as well, I was working with IT to develop the city energy resources webpage. So that is live. It has a couple of different links for efficiency, electric vehicles, as well as different funding and rebate opportunities. So if there's any other links that you'd like on there or any other information, we can get that up there without a.
I'd suggest that be part of the strategic plan. It just should mirror the plan in a lot of ways. So it should answer.
When you do something like that, George, do you hand it over to an IT person or do you do it yourself?
So I have the functionality to update the links and the website. They just have to basically approve it to make sure nothing, bad is being put on the website.
That's good.
And then just a couple meetings for this next week. In this room, actually, on the 12th, which will be Tuesday, Dry Clean Colorado, Southern Colorado Advisory Committee will be here to initiate different clean transportation projects, and that's through Dry Clean Colorado. So we're looking to collaborate about different EV projects for Southern Colorado and the city.
Who will be meeting?
So it will be folks from Drive Clean Colorado. So it will be AJ, Samora, and then Bonnie, who will be in that. But they had recruited members for a committee for electric vehicle projects in Southern Colorado. So I haven't met the rest of the committee, but Tuesday we'll be meeting here to discuss the different initiatives that they have.
Can you email out details of those meetings to everybody in case they want to attend? I mean, if
Sure.
I have time, Tuesdays tend to be a busy day for me.
Sure, that's something I can check.
I'm on those committee, I'm on that
Oh, yeah,
committee as
we're-
well.
That's what I wanted to find out without asking.
Okay, so we could get a report. Are you going to participate now?
Yes,
Okay.
I'll be there.
While you're, just, while you're doing that, can we also find out if there's any workshops or if there's gonna be anything at city council where there'll be discussing energy issues? Because, I don't want that to happen where they vote on something, well, we didn't even know
Yeah.
anything about it, so.
I guess the other member that I didn't talk about was Larry Intensio, right? And they had a little bit of a session on consumer choice energy. Okay, and we'll talk about that.
So real quick, before we get into that, there will be the Black Hills Energy fourth quarter update call, December 13th. I believe that meeting invite has been shared.
Mhm.
So they'll be providing updates to the Ready EV program. So that'll be another EV update. And then in addition, I will be going to the West Side Committee, which is the work that Thea has been doing. So I'll be talking and giving a presentation.
What is it?
So it's the West Side Neighborhood Committee. It's made up of residents and community partners, and we're meeting for our monthly meeting next Wednesday. And George is gonna be the presenter.
Yeah, so that's an open meeting, right? I mean,
Yes,
if
yes.
anyone else.
Why don't you share that too?
Sure.
The meeting details. I don't want to do that here because then I'll be putting it in my calendar and great. That's great stuff.
And that concludes my updates.
Okay.
And then I know, you just mentioned the consumer choice energy bill?
Yeah, so we talked strategic planning to death so far in this meeting. We haven't done any of it, but we've talked it to death. So there's this idea that has been brought up through the state legislation about community choice energy. And the way it's implemented differently in different states, okay? The Colorado idea was that if you're part of a investor-owned utility, that you could subscribe to a different provider. And that investor-owned utility would handle the distribution, but you can get your power for somebody else. And the idea would be that you could save money.
Wheeling.
But you have to do it as a community. You can't do it as an individual. Okay. This stuff is still at the state legislation. I don't even think it's going to be in a 2024 session. It'll probably be in the 2025 session. So this is kind of future looking. But Larry Atencio was a big supporter of this. When we were in the municipalization effort, he thought this was a better idea than municipalizing. Okay. I think what you see in California that does this kind of stuff is that it's it'll save you 10% maybe. So it's not a big, it's like, subscribing to a solar farm. Okay. So I just want to
be on this committee now that he's turned out, Larry.
I don't know, I mean, in our bylaws,
Joe Latino's taking his position in January.
he could participate if he wants to, but he doesn't attend. So
He's on because he's a part of the city council.
Well-
We'll need a representative for city council. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't know if that's why he was on or what, if it's just by choice.
it was by choice.
There's not a requirement that we have to have a city.
Yeah.
There isn't on the bylaws, okay.
It would be nice. It would be nice to have that.
That is sometimes helpful.
Let's think about that.
And I think California, unless you're gonna.
I was gonna say, so the other thing, I mean, Texas is a totally deregulated.
Yeah, Texas got in big trouble like that,
Yes, because they don't handle the transmission and distribution very well.
Well, when you deal with that, another utility company, you make your own contracts.
Right.
So what happened in Texas, and I don't know if California set up that way, is they all were under contracts with these companies. And then when they went through they didn't have enough power. All these companies started raising the bills, which Excel and Black Hill just can't do arbitrarily. And some of them got tens of thousands of dollars for, a month's work there. And that's the problem. And, it's deregulated gas here in Colorado. So you have to make sure you put some rules to it.
It's a commodity product, right? Natural gas, just like, gasoline is really controlled by the,
Apologize, my guys.
Hi, Steve.
And that's one thing, Excel always stressed, they don't sell gas and they don't sell electric, they sell a service. So that's, what you're in for, but that wheeling, it's tough. California, almost bankrupt California back when they deregulated.
So I think this is one of these things like the PUC that we just need to be aware of that this stuff is going on, okay?
Sure.
And we should take a
I
position.
was just adding some history to it.
It does give the investor-owned utility some competition, okay? So if you subscribe to 100% renewable, for example, you do a PPA for 100% renewable, then natural gas doesn't play into it. You see what I'm saying? So they could have these spikes and all that, but you wouldn't be affected. Okay.
Do you know if is there any draft legislation out there?
Are we talking about CCE?
Yes.
Okay. I think I can short circuit this a little bit because Colorado Renewable Energy Policy Committee, which I'm a member of, is run this around and around, and we're going to have another meeting about it tomorrow, I think, at Pueblo's Energy Future. But the legislation currently has the utility set to enter into regional transmission authority or organization. Those organizations aren't already there. There is one or two, but there are a lot of hijinks with these folks. And so what they're waiting for is for the regional transmission organizations to get their act together. And then both the utilities in the state are required to join those RTOs. They're suggesting that we let the legislation wait until the RTOs take place before we do it, because it'll just overlap itself. So what we should know what the difference is between an RTO and a CCE or CCA, and what they can actually do. There are fees for dropping out. There's all kinds of detail. I mean, it's. I'm not sure that we're not in a better place going forward with the legislation we have than to look at that. There are people that are very passionate about it, and they'll continue to push it. We should listen to them, but it as Ken said, the legislation probably won't happen until 2025. We're all starting to now get through the energy resource plans for both XL and Black Hills. And as we get through the 120-day, we got a 120-day report coming up from Black Hills pretty soon. We want to be part of that, I think. When we get through these public relations or energy. Well, anyway, there are several facets of the resource plan, but right now we're in the last phases of an older plan, the 2021 plan. We'll start to get into new plans in next year, and at that point we should try to be as engaged as we can. So we'll already now have the they're already looking at the resources they're going to need for next year. Those are the 20-day reports. We'll look at those, and if we have anything to say about it, we should probably weigh in. Today was the day that the PUC looked at and deliberated all day on the XL plan, XL clean heat plan. There was a lot of issues about, they wanted to have new natural gas. Certainly that won't be part of what we have to deal with because we already got 440 megawatts of natural gas. So we'll have to take a look at those and see what happens. I don't think it will be a major issue for us to talk about CCE or the RTOs for at least a year. But we should know about it. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think.
Did the city intervene on the clean heat plan?
Did who? The city?
Did the city of Pueblo have its lawyer intervene on the clean heat plan?
I don't think we know the answer to that question. Can you find out, George?
I can find out. I'm not too sure right now.
Yeah, that's a really good question, though.
Yeah, because I attended one of the stakeholder meetings the PUC held in Pueblo on it. You know, and my input, because basically there are 3 pathways for them to meet the state's requirement around what constitutes clean heat for natural gas.
Yep.
You know, and one of those pathways is weatherization. And of course, you know, as an investor in utility, that's their least preferred option because they don't get to make revenue off of that. But I would really like to put pressure on them instead of spending billions on, you know, whatever new technology they're proposing. If you can even allocate $1 million to weatherization efforts as part of that plan, you know, just think how much more impactful that is.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And that
That's
was one thing, with George, when you were, to get you hired, we knew as a group, we would have a hard time keeping track of the PUC issues of the city. And that was one of our expectations that you could look at or somehow be aware of and pass those along with like Tom or if any of us individually, but you know, you don't want to wake up someday and, you know, there's grants or they're doing something and we just missed it. No, you can't be perfect.
I can put you on a good web, timely basis to get the information about their weekly meetings. And then you could just pass that along. And if you look through it and see there's a lot of transportation stuff, I don't know that maybe other commissions would be interested in it, but we're primarily interested in energy and water. So if you hand those out to everybody, which I normally do to some other groups anyway. So I'll put you in touch with that when I can. Sure. First of the week.
Yeah, I just wanted everybody to be aware of this Consumer Choice Energy, CCE, because it was being discussed at the council. And Atencio was trying to get the council to vote to support that legislation.
Yeah.
So and really that should be our purview.
We should, be able to at least have.
At least he should be coming here to ask those.
Yeah, and that's what I think is important because, you know, that's how they get into contracts. And, you know, the city council, they're not experts. And the mayor's not an expert on these things. And so they're voting on these things. And it would be nice for us just to be able to give them, and instead of having a meeting with them, which we know is really hard to get into, maybe we could send them a letter of issues or on a certain issue, a letter for them to read at a workshop.
Sure.
Or at a council meeting, because then they get a little taste of it and more that they get a sense that hey, be careful.
Well, then they can rely on that, hopefully start to rely on that advice, which is what part of our.
That's another thing. We'll touch them more often.
I think Sarah Martinez, okay, there's a good experience with her, right? Because she, you know.
Who's this?
Sarah Martinez, who's the president of the work sessions, okay? So, she came back to the council at one of the council meetings and was saying, because one of our recommendations was to, hire more people. And she said, why is that in a city budget? And she was I think the mayor said, let's not discuss that yet, okay? So I think Sarah Martinez could be an advocate for this commission, okay? Or whoever the next president of the city council work sessions are. We probably need to build that relationship. That could be part of our strategic plan, okay? But it'd be nice to have that support mechanism because there's some things that I think are real important to the city, which is a segue into my next topic, okay? And that's energy performance contracts. Uh, my feeling is that Black Hills doesn't want to do this stuff. They're in it, you know, they're saying, oh, we'll handle it for you. So they do some simple, energy performance work, right? It's not.
Give us an example, so.
It's not in depth enough, okay? Because I think in these energy performance contracts, it's gonna help us to convert, to electrify everything and to bring more solar resources that the city owns. Because we can form those things.
Well, I'm scared. I'm not an EPC. I'm not an expert in that. I've been involved in some, but where do we get the expertise that we need?
We go to the state and get it, I think, is we go to the Colorado Energy Office. They have all the plans kind of worked out for us. We just need to they'll recommend a contractor to do this. Correct me if I'm wrong, by the way. So all we have to do, there's what you do, put some money at risk, okay? Because to do these audits, it costs money. If you do the audits and do nothing, you have to pay that money to that contractor. If you do the audits, and the idea is that this energy performance contract, you don't execute on it unless you save money.
Mhm.
Okay. So in the end, if you execute on these things, you're going to save some money. It may not be immediate payoff, it may take a few years to pay it off. But once you get through that payoff, now your buildings are more energy efficient. And the best energy, I think you mentioned this, is the energy you don't use, right? I mean, that's the lowest price energy. So you make your
We talked to Alan, extension. Alan, I think's got a real good handle.
Andrew.
Andrew. Sorry, Andrew.
Alan does know something about performance contracts.
But we've been talking about this for over a year, and the city has done nothing on this. Okay, so there's some resistance. I don't know if it's Andrew Hayes or if it's the mayor. I think they see these as boondoggles, and they're not.
Why do you see?
Because they haven't done anything. They haven't embraced this stuff.
They haven't put out an RFP yet, right, for a consultant to do.
Yeah, is that true, George? They've not done anything.
Well, I have reached out to the state and the EPC office, so I'm waiting to hear more about who does that and just trying to get those contacts. But I will say that just it comes back to the budget and the money at risk for this. I understand the urgency and the blanket approach per se for every city building to maybe go through this, but I think realistically they want to start small and get a solid plan.
That's not the
So
way you do these things.
I think if this is to get off the ground, we should really identify a list of buildings that.
Let me, because I want to get this idea across too. There's a lot of examples of this, okay? The comprehensive approach. CSU Pueblo did this, okay? They're a net metering facility, okay? They make all their own energy because they did an energy performance contract for their campus, okay? Public Community College did the same thing. Joe Wanaka kind of talked about
Is
it.
Joe still on our committee?
No, yeah, he's living in Aspen now. There are other places that have done this. Probably, Dr. Moore and building that healthcare center, he probably did that to his buildings. It's an approach that saves you money. Why wouldn't you want to do it?
Well, that RFP, who's responsible for hiring the firm? Because I imagine the city's not capable of doing that.
Well, it would be purchasing, you have to, do the RFP and go out to bid.
Yeah, see, I wonder if they have any expertise. I didn't.
They would,
I thought Andrew was handling that.
I think the Colorado Energy Office has a prescription for this, right? It provides resources to help municipalities, government organizations to go do
So
that.
that's what we were talking about earlier.
So let's just follow their script, and I don't think it's going to be that difficult. Now,
So Andrew, George would need to look into that.
I think I'm showing frustration on this because we've been talking about this way too long. Okay, let's just go do it. or let's be told we're not gonna do it.
So it's been approved and the money's available.
There's a program also called building benchmarking. Are you aware of the benchmarking program?
Yes.
Okay, that gives you an idea of the buildings that would be the next up for, those that are benchmarking should be able to tell you, where the need is, right? So, is that something that's being utilized, or how, are we involved in those programs yet,
Um,
as far as you know?
that's not something that I know, but I can find out more.
Well, I think what happens, again, I don't have any evidence of this, but, it's a political thing, right? You've got Black Hills and Excel, who, well, actually Excel doesn't provide the gas for the city anyway, it's another company. You've got Black Hills, who really wants to slow this down, okay? Because they want to own that power production, okay? They have a stake in this. I mean, the city, the amount of energy that the city uses when we listened to it last time was about 20 megawatts, okay? Of the 400 megawatts that Black Hills produce, that's 5% of their production basis. If we followed through on with the Colorado Energy Office and put all this behind the meter, that would take away some business from Black Hills, okay? So Black Hills is lobbying the city, oh, we know how to do this. Oh, we'll do these energy audits for you.
Well, they're mandated.
Like that.
They have a demand side management from the PUC that's mandated. But let's ask Laura. Laura, you were involved in this initially, and what, to your knowledge, where's these energy performance contracts at? We applied, but we haven't been given any money from the state to go ahead and fund this. Is that correct?
So the way the state's program works is they don't fund it, they just facilitate it. Basically, they've pre-selected energy performance contractors, and usually there's like 7 or 8 of them pre-authorized by the state, and most of them would bid on an RFP, and the price is kind of capped by the Colorado Energy Office. So there's a bit of price control embedded in the process. They can all offer, varying costs for the upfront audits, for example. But the benefit of going with these large firms is they have the technical expertise to cover the wide variety of building types that you get at something like a city or a county or a school district. And they bring all those experts in at once. They do it quickly. The upfront audit, I think, is the concern. That's the cost, but that can be rolled right in to the energy savings and paid for over time, as would all of the measures. So the whole idea behind the contract is that it's cost savings from day one, because the cost of it is laid out over a certain period of time. And these savings, they only suggest savings that will ultimately pay for themselves. So that's the idea behind it.
And doesn't benchmarking help? Go ahead, Laura, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and every month you don't take action, you absolutely are losing money. In theory, you could, again, if like Black Hills contracts as part of their DSM plan, as you're saying, Edgy, they've got Michael's Energy. They have some great engineers, but I don't believe that they have the full breadth of what these large ESCOs have to give as much detail in their audit assessments as you would get from these ESCOs. So yes, it would be cheaper, but then it's on the city to take action, go out to bid for each measure, each HVAC system upgrade, whereas the ESCOs will project manage the whole process. And again, that comes at a cost. It's embedded in the project. But how much capacity does the city have to actually make these changes in a timely manner? Does the cost of waiting for the city to do this in a piecemeal approach, is that what it's going to cost you to not take action as quickly as you could through an energy performance contract, just in overall energy costs? That's the big question the city
My
has to
question was,
contend with.
we applied for this. And what advantages, when we applied for it, what advantage did we actually get as a city?
We didn't apply for it. Nothing's been done.
I see, I thought that we'd already,
It's not an application process. It's not a grant. You enter an MOU with the state of Colorado. And then they help you, they have like template RFPs to then help you put an RFP out so that you can hire an independent contractor, come do your study. Then when the study's completed, the state comes in, kind of helps you review the study. And then if you find some projects that will pay back, they also help you with the financing so that, like, for example, if you find a project that's going to save you $100,000 a year, they'll get you financing where you're only paying $80,000 a year to pay for it so that you.
so it's the financing. Well, what do you suggest, Ellen? What stage should the city be in that now you seem, you and Laura seem to have a great handle on this, but.
I guess I'm not exactly sure how to push because I'm having the same issue at Pueblo Water. So we had a presentation from the Colorado Energy Office about energy performance contracting, and I was hoping that we would start the path energy MOU with the state. But after we kind of kicked this around among the senior management team, essentially what we concluded was that we don't really have any low-hanging fruit in our system. Like we've done LEDs everywhere. We've done variable speed drives on all our pumps. So all the kind of like real obvious stuff that you would normally do in these has already been done. And so the concern is we're going to have a very complicated audit because for us to say to me, they're going to have to go into things like looking at our distribution model to see, could we change the sequencing of how we turn on pumps and that kind of thing, which ends up being, a really complicated process because you got to figure out the hydraulics of it all, what tank levels do under different scenarios. We will probably have to look at producing power on site, which can end up being a fairly complicated process. And so the concern is we'll have this really expensive audit, and because we don't have any big obvious savings, we may not find that there's a project we can go forward and save money on, which means we pay for the audit out of pocket up front. And then the other concern is just bandwidth of staff. So, a lot of the work's done for you, but when a consultant comes in and does a project like this, I mean, they're going to be asking for a ton of information about operations, things like that. So it does take some staff time to sort of feed the consultant what they need. And the concern was with some of the big projects we have going right now, we just don't have the bandwidth to do it. I guess the one other thing that's sitting out there, and so I would say we haven't said no, we've said not right now. The other thing, of course, I've talked to this group before, we'll be bringing a hydro power generation plant online, hopefully this spring. And we thought it would be helpful to have maybe a year operation under our belt because that would provide data to give to the consultant and say, okay, here's where we're sitting as far as our net power needs now after bringing in this particular project. So we're kind of on hold. I'm struggling with the same thing because I kind of agree with Ken and Laura that we should be doing these as soon as possible because every month you don't, you're losing money. So I agree with that, but at the same time, I need to figure out how do I continue to push that process internally without becoming a nuisance? Because if you get that person who just keeps hammering on the same thing, pretty soon you get ignored. So I'm trying to finesse a continued pressure for the Board of Waterworks to do an EPC process, but we're not there yet.
And it's expensive and it's hard it takes staffing time. Now, Black Hills has gone back and forth, and I talked to Andrew about this too. They were doing energy audits for commercial buildings, which are buildings were doing for free. And then they weren't. And supposedly they're doing them for free now. And if they're doing them for free, that means an expert's going to come into that building and do that. And hopefully they're trained well enough And last time I talked to Andrew, and then they got the rebate right with them, so if he says, hey, you got some old motors, we can replace them and you'll get this rebate from Black Hills.
Well, they did that to 3 of the buildings here, right? And we saw that report last meeting.
Sure, but we have how
But
many
it
buildings?
was kind of low hanging fruit type stuff. It wasn't as in depth as one of these audits would be, because Black Hills is not going to go in and say, hey, if you build, if you put solar over this parking lot here, you could power, the municipality building and things like that. Now, I guess as side projects, you could go do that and fund those things. But, the other piece of this is that I bet you our buildings aren't very energy efficient. So if we made them energy efficient, and we plan on bringing this renewable energy online after those energy efficiency improvements are made, after the electrification stuff is done, and then you turn on that renewable, then your bills really drop. But yet, but there's this risk of the consulting fees. Okay, that's
as a consultant, as you know, that has to be in the RFP. If you don't tell them that we also want each of the building look at an outside power source, and if you do, well, consultant then, we don't have that engineer, so then we're going to have to hire an engineer to do that. If you get someone that's already an energy efficiency expert that can come in and do these things, and you can ask those questions of them. But I see more now. I kind of stood back on that deal because I was working with Andrew on making sure we're getting all the rebates and doing the low hanging fruit. That's what our group was doing. So I just figured, but now I see what you're running in against. And our group, we can maybe write an RFP if you want to try to do that to help the city out. But from what George is saying, this sounds almost, this is like, usually they get engineering firms to do this. So for the city to put out an RFP. So
I think, I think the state has kind of helped, in the process. Here's what you need to do. Here's how, here's the stuff you need to bring in front of the city council for approval, things like that they can kind of help with. It does take it's going to take a lot of resources for the city to do this. And maybe there's a fear there too, that they're already stretched. But I really think what needs to happen is that we need to get Andrew Hayes in here to talk about this, okay? And maybe we can do this as part of our strategic planning session. But I would really want, what I would really like is for Andrew Hayes to be part of this commission. I think he is, but his attendance is not. He does sit out on the web meetings, but sometimes when we ask a question to him, he's not there. Okay,
because you're his eyes and ears, right? And do you feel the same way? He's not paying attention to it.
I think that he's pulled in many different directions.
That's an unfair question for George, because George works for him. Okay.
Well, no, what I meant is, this is, the city's also a business, and we can help. I'm not asking him to, if the answer to that is diplomatic as well, maybe there's more resources needed. We're not asking you to, it's not a personality contest, but did you work with the state at the water board? Did you go back to the state and ask them to help you with your how to do an RFP? Did you do that?
No, because we decided we didn't want to proceed at this time. So, but that would be our next step.
Yeah, and the city's like, it's more like a municipally, it's like a regulated utility company like Excel or Black Hills. The city's, got regulations, but how hard it is to get the resources to do something to save money. That's
my consideration in this is that if we don't do something like this, what we're going to end up doing is, Black Hills is going to supply us all our resources. And if we want to be 100% renewable, they're going to be happy to do that. Okay. But it's going to be they'll build us a solar farm. And we'll get the 8%
Well,
discount.
And I brought up, you have to watch out for Black Hills. They're a little different. When I did the same thing for Excel, I did energy audits on industrial and commercial properties, and they trained us, real well to go in there. And we were there right behind them, giving them rebates and doing that for them. If it was a big project, we would provide the engineering for them too. Black Hills won't do that, but they will go through these buildings, and I would hope they have the expertise. But that's an easy issue, because you could just dial Patty's. Patty from Patty's the one you can ask her, and that's probably done with that conversation. You know how to do that, to get them to come out and bring their rebates and talk about this. But this other thing, the only thing I could think of, my suggestion to the chair of this committee is that we put together a letter to the mayor saying that how important, and here's what we think the steps that they should do, because I could see, this just overwhelming unless we can help them with some of the steps. Even for you, George, don't you agree? It's kind of overwhelming.
Yes, well, so I do want to close with this because we're about at time here. I'm hearing the same concerns from Alan, from Andrew, as well as the chief of staff, between the city staff capacity to manage and facilitate these, and then the fees associated and the potential of not coming away with anything. So I think what I'd like to see is like a pilot list of buildings that we could start trying to work through, whether it be like the first 3, 5, 10, because I have heard, they are interested, but they want it to be a slow approach into,
Well, just a suggestion, George, it's kind of a simple thing, and you get paid for doing it. Well, I would try to go to each building and bring one of the maintenance people with you and get to know the buildings a little bit.
If the buildings are if they're benchmarking, that's a step in the right direction, because they already know the history. And I would look at those buildings first, because that's the quickest way to find out where you want to go, is to look at the benchmarking. Laura, didn't you had some information on benchmarking as well?
Yeah, if George, if you could tell us how many of the city's buildings trigger that Colorado building benchmarking requirement. That means they've had to go through the Energy Star portfolio manager, and they've received a score.
Yeah.
And so obviously the lowest scores, those are the ones to prioritize with Michael's Energy here.
That gives us something to sort of measure how we're doing and so forth. I'm concerned that the Black Hills is talking about bringing 70% renewables by 2035, not 100%, and leaving 30% for
2030, right? I mean,
2030, whatever. But they're not. There's still a gap.
Yeah, big gap.
And that gap is what concerns me, and how we're going to get there.
I mean, on this energy commission that you work for, we could be at 70% right now. It would just, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That was the thing. There's enough generation out there that's non-fossil fuel. But good. Hey, thanks, Laura, for all the help.
Thanks, Laura.
Good seeing you. Good. Hope the new job's doing well.
Before we move on,
Yes, please.
I think we need to be very careful in how we promote this.
Okay.
Because we run the risk of becoming basically a barking dog that Andrew will want to ignore. Every time I talk about anything, that committee just makes a bunch of noise and creates headaches for me. So we need to try to get stuff done, but you can't. I mean, if people feel like it's being forced down their throat,
It's got to be more turnkey. I mean,
yeah, we become an enemy, and we don't want to be the committee that the people who work in public works fear because we just cause problems. The city council fears because every time we talk to them, it just creates problems. So we need to make sure that we're being cooperative with what the city's trying to do, instead of saying you're doing it wrong, do it our way.
Yeah, I think maybe we can get some examples from the colleges around here about how much money they save. It's like doing that.
Well, I wonder if Joe would be willing to come
I'm sure.
give
he
a
would.
presentation
Yeah, Joe,
about how it went at PCC, what they saved, because that, I mean, that helps more than anything. Is when you hear about another
Understand
place
that
that
they're under state mandate.
Yeah.
So let's roll this kind of idea into our strategic planning.
Yeah.
And let's talk about it, because I agree with you. You know, you become a squeaky wheel, nobody listens to you, right? Oh, you know, and Dante over here is complaining about this all the time. You know, let's shut him out.
and that's a good example. You remember when Scott was our representative and he just got overwhelmed. The city just kept giving more and more. And Andrew, when he first came on, he had more time and everything, but it just looks like Andrew is really packed with a lot of other issues. And in his mind, in their city's mind, everything's saving them money. So, but no, this is massive savings, and somehow we have to. Well, you have to be our advocate. You know, going in front of city council, going in front of the mayor. We need the support of the staff to understand the possibilities and how to do this and still be able to fulfill their own.
What a
jobs.
sustainable, what a strategic plan will do, will prioritize things. So we're not trying to do, you know, is this the most important thing?
Yeah.
I don't know for sure.
Oh, no, that's
And
excellent.
so-
Yeah, we're just trying to we're trying to
Yes, I have
strategically
something, yeah.
do stuff
Yeah.
right now until we have that meeting.
Yeah,
And, but that'll get in, but the communications are real big.
This strategic meeting is not gonna happen until next, you know, January, February type timeframe, I hope. We can get moving on it. We may have a new mayor too, and that may change things too, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's it. What we're talking about changes happen. And that's why some of these long-term things, we probably shouldn't spend, like, you know, we had the new people in here just over and over and over, and that's so far out. Let's, part of, if nothing else, until we get the strategic thing, you know, let's stay focused on what's gonna happen in the last 3 or 4 months. Things that we could do to do that. And the same thing if we have a presentation, you know, long-term, you know, sort of deals, because otherwise, you know, you were talking about what, you know, we're all gonna go to a meeting and see what Black Hills, you know, I'm not going that big. You know, whatever they say, the PUC is not gonna affect us for now. I want to know what the results are, but anyway, it's just a suggestion, because, you know, I think we'll spend more time and we won't be talking so much about, you know, things that are so far down the road until we get the strategic planning. I tried to get you, but they said,
That's
no, she can't talk and walk at the same time. I do disagree. I think whoever's in strategic planning could be part of the group, and it actually enhances it. When you get somebody that doesn't know the subject matter, it's sometimes a nightmare.
well, I mean, it's good. You could, I mean, if we're going down the wrong path, you know, speak up, I guess.
Well, Tom would know as well as I do. Now, Tom's doing like what I had, you know, the big companies, they give you a full day. Well, as you know, from Mullerell, they'll give you a whole day on.
well, this is a big company
Oh, no, this is a small group with a real defined.
with a huge, you know, huge mission.
You understand what I'm saying, Tom?
Yeah, I do.
And you know, your companies, Mullerell, Excel, they don't change. This is
up to
gonna
everyone,
change.
and I have
You know,
been
hopefully.
help where needed.
And
So-
that's why they have a
And
long one,
voice
because it's a
it.
long-term
Started it and
goals and
This may-
objectives. Ours are
But
short-term
I'm
because,
confident in myself.
like you said, the mayor changes.
Yeah.
everything
I'll
can change.
find out.
Well, we do have a comprehensive plan, and if we have a strategic plan, it should. It should
And
walk
thanks for
right.
joining the, how did you hear about this? I mean,
Eva Cosleone introduced me to George, and then George and I met, and
Okay.
George told me.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually a fun group. And one thing for this, you know, for everyone, instead of using initials or jargon, you know, say what it is, and, you know,
Yeah.
pretty soon,
But
you know.
when I started, that was I had trouble following some of the stuff because everything was.
Yeah, Tom,
I'm like, I don't know. what they're talking about.
And I try to remember.
I sit here on the internet putting them in, saying,
But-
oh, okay, that's what that is.
Us younger guys, Alan, have a hard time with that.
And think about the city council, and you know, people were trying to. Our audience is we have to really think about.
we need to simplify, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Well,
let's
it's
adjourn
been great.
until
Thanks.
next
Yeah.
year.
Yeah,
Thanks, Ken.
Are we adjourned?
For leading
I
us.
think we're adjourned, yes.
Oh, yeah.